Good morning, dear colleagues. I want to present to you today a talk about special educational needs and sport. Focused on psychological aspects of the interaction between cognitive, affective, emotional, and motor area. Sport represents a key element on an emotional and social level, a multidimensional contest, dynamic, ludic, able to intensify the awareness of oneself and one's body. In this sense, it becomes an educational and training tool, and it's often forerunner of social change. Sport, in fact, that combine physical activity with recreational activity, promoting health, longevity, physical and psychological well-being. As stressed by the European Union, sports are also a source of social inclusion and was recognized as an excellent tool to the integration of minorities and groups at risk of social exclusion. I have chosen this phrase of Nelson Mandela to highlight the power of sport in changing the world under social and relational level. Sport has the power to evoke emotions. For this reason, it has an important factor to join people together, and especially young people, and it speaks the same language of young people. There is an important factor to overcome social, racial barriers and any kind of discrimination. Moreover, sport is a tool which, by comparison with their own limits and controlled psychomotor activity, improve the functional attitudes, positively influence the education, the perception of self-concept, and improve self-esteem, and promote a new perception of own worth. Literature provides several theoretical models that affirm the influence of movement in the individual development under cognitive, affective, emotional, and relational area. Psychomotricity has drawn many ideas from the psychological and psychoanalytical studies, and in particular on the child's psychic life. Thus, for example, the study of Piaget and Wallon, these two authors focuses their studies on tone, muscle tension, posture, mimicry, and motility, and they believe that at the basis of the language and the intelligence there is movement. Wallon will speak about a tonic dialogue to describe the particular form of communication that takes place in mother-child dyad, in which the mother responds to the demands of the newborn, mainly expressed through the body, and with her body transmit messages of acceptance and caring. Melanie Klein also claims that children form our mental representation from the bodily sensation that accompanies the interactions of objects, good or bad, which may be people, body parts, or function. In the 70s, neuroscience was born, a new discipline that join a lot of scientists, physiologists, biochemists, mathematicians, microscopists, that unite their knowledge to empirically demonstrate that bodily experiences influence the cognitive and that intelligence does not have a place all in the brain, but it also resides in all body cells. Neuroscience wants to emphasize that the idea of mind and body are independent of each other could not be considered valid. In the same years, the work on psychomotricity of Aucouturier and Lapierre constituted a critique of the classical conception of the body as made up of bones and muscle. Body is not an object on which to act with the mechanical mode and on which it could intervene only through corrective or orthopedic gymnastic. These authors stressed the inaccuracy of this view and the impossibility of separating dual motor and mental aspect of a human action. In our country, we have also found spreading Jean Leburc's School of Psychomotricity. This method is based on active pedagogy. According to this orientation, the educator, the teacher, the psychologist, the coach had to put the practitioners in sport problem situations, in groups or individually, allowing them with their help to confront their own limits, to control psychomotricity, thereby improving functional abilities and overcoming the proposed difficulties. The importance and value of physical activity in education is enshrined in the UNESCO International Charter in 1976 that established the right to physical education and sport by all children, youth, seniors, and disabled subjects with disability to ensure development of a personal identity through physical education and sport programs suited to the personal need of each one. Adapted physical activity in a systemic and interdisciplinary multi-perspective integrates information and knowledge from different scientific fields such as sports medicine, rehabilitation sciences, physical education, spatial education, psychology, to identify the common area of knowledge that promote physical activity, leisure time, dance, sports, fitness and rehabilitation, able to overcome obstacles and difficulties throughout the life cycle. The adapted physical education on the basis of these guidelines is developed as a subdiscipline of a physical education which deals with the realization of activities that allow the experience of personal safety, satisfaction and success with different abilities in according to Winnick that describe this important question in 2005. What are special educational needs? All individuals during childhood and adolescence and throughout the life cycle manifest educational needs as to acquire knowledge and skills, developing a sense of belonging, sense of identity and dignity, appreciation and acceptance. But in case of developmental difficulties expressed in a problematic functioning, according to the ICF, International Classification of Functioning, It is important to establish spatial individualized education. The term spatial, so, refers to the type of resources, spatial knowledge and skills needed to ensure everyone equal opportunities for development, choices and quality of life. We can reach integration and social inclusion through 3 steps: adaptation, identification, and point of contact. Features of the process of adaptation are the flexibility, simplification, and mediation. The first aspect relates to didactics, to the methodology of approach and practice. The second concerns the rules and their regulation in each sport. The third refers to the specific motor activity created for each one type of disability. Identification takes place every time that interventions are designed on the measure of the single individual in respect to their own condition, taking into account the limitation that determine the difficulty and identify the potential that should be exploited. Diversity thus becomes a resource, a possibility to reduce disadvantage, not deny its existence, but highlighting the strengths and enhancing the skill and capabilities. Point of contact, finally, refers to the same objectives that we can find between individual and belonging class or the belonging team. Invisible disability. What is invisible disability? Invisible disability, with this term, we indicate the experiences of the subject with special needs, his difficulties in feeling loved and accepted despite their condition. So, sport is an important factor to combat the hidden negative factor of invisible disability. Through sport, we can combat negative feelings such as fear, anxiety, anguish, depression, that determine frustration and closer with the outside world. In my opinion, in my clinical experience with the sport, we can have an help to contrast depression thanks to the release of endorphins that help individual to overcome the state and the depression condition. It's very important. We can reduce and totally denied medicine, tablet and pharmacology therapy. Sport is the self-affirmation trust, the development of a good level of self-esteem and new and more positive image. It's a place to learn not only for subjects with special needs, but for all. It's a space in which we want to manage anger or negative feelings, in which everybody can wage a metaphorical fight, a therapeutic setting, a container, another space where to reach a new form of self-government through the establishment of functional relationships with professional reference figures. I want to highlight the importance of movement and sport in relational and communication process and development. Interpersonal neurobiology emphasizes, for example, interpersonal neurobiology emphasizes the importance of the relational matrix of perception and empathy. Bowlby, Spitz and Mahler highlight the importance of body and contact skin to skin and warm in developmental psychology and in the attachment of mother-child dyad, in the mother-child dyad. Erickson speaks about minimal cues that are small signal behavior and minimal details of communication, of perceptional style. Non-verbal reaction that express positive or negative emotion during the relation. So for us, educators, psychologists, coach, teachers and so on, it's important to observe these minimal cues to help young people in stress period or in the state in a depression condition, in negative condition. Interactional synchrony, with this term we indicate a particular form of relationship communication through which the mother followed the child with their own movements, with the sensory channel, they harmonize the movements to respond effectively to the needs of the child. A similar concept is the embodied simulation, a crucial mechanism in intersubjectivity. It's the innate ability of the individual to internalize, to incorporate and simulate and mimic the state of another person. I want to highlight the importance of metaphor as a therapeutic factor and an important factor to change disability in diversibility. Through metaphor that all educators and coach and psychology can use, it's similar fairy tales. We can express, and this is important for young people, internal impulses in a controlled space and time. In the same manner, children learn through a metaphor, like giving voice to their positive or destructive desire through any given character, how to receive fulfillment from another, how to have ideal attachment, and how to identify himself, finding the most appropriate strategy to overcome difficulties in the life cycle. We can build a metaphor, start from memories of the operator, from events involving people known, life story and important famous people, and from fairy tales. The structure of metaphor is a similar fairy tales. We have the presence of metaphorical conflict, the identification of, with characters such as heroes, wicked, riskiers, and the parallel learning situation is the most important step because we use the lever that are hidden in the subject. And the last step is a metaphorical crisis and proclamation of a hero. So the purpose of this study is to enhance diversity in the common objective, which help individuals to compare with their limits in a context of rules and structure governed and codified, represented by sports setting. Thank you for the attention.